Thank you very much. I've got a presentation here on zero carbon buildings and what's possible for the future of the building sector in our country, but also in this region itself. So first of all, if you think about zero carbon buildings, that's, you take it on a building by building basis first. That's an ambitious but entirely possible goal. So this building here is the Bullitt Centre in Seattle. Has anyone been there? I'm the only one. So this is actually, I went there because it's the first net zero building in the world. It is energy positive, it's water positive, so that means it purifies the water that comes on the site before it leaves, positive for measures of biodiversity and also health and happiness. So this is a building that's rated under a tool called the Living Building Challenge, which is one that's coming to Australia and on some leading projects already, including some kind of close to home here. But tying back together with what others have spoken about today, why would you need to decarbonise an individual building when you can just plug it into a renewable energy grid? Well, partly because of the opportunities that exist within the building sector. Like we heard about agriculture, that it causes emissions, but it's also a massive sink. The same goes for buildings. They are emitters, especially when they're connected to gas, but there are also huge opportunities to reduce energy usage on every site, to reduce the amount of electricity we actually need from the grid. Using behind-the-meter solar systems and battery storage, which we've heard is becoming more and more cost-effective, these become no-brainers, especially on larger-scale projects. Like this is a project called Eden in Cornwall, which is lovely. But also, we get this efficiency through doing cost-effective upgrades on existing buildings. So it's entirely possible that with building stock, and BZE showed this in 2013, we released the first nationwide plan to retrofit every single building in the country to achieve zero emissions. And that was based on plugging them into a renewable energy grid, getting off gas, and doing cost-effective retrofits. So to be able to make them cost effective, of course, you have to extend the period that you're looking at for your return on investment. But if there's anyone in this room who plans not to live in a home in 15 years' time, yeah, no one. Right, so investing in our building stock is a solid investment regardless of who lives where, because we need every home in Australia, every building to meet minimum performance standards. And we should raise our expectations of what they are. So the scope of possibilities in this region are quite large, and part of that is because you can do things at scale when you're dealing with the same issue again and again. So if you're looking at 80,000 homes in Zone 6 and 7, what you roll out, building by individual building, it's borderline cost effective. We're talking about those long returns on investment. How long will it take you to make back the money you just spent on upgrading that building? But when you do it at scale, and that was the foundation of the work that we did on the buildings plan, working at scale and collaborating across these projects makes things possible that otherwise are not. This project here in Castlemaine, I know, but this is being rated under the same tool, the Living Building Challenge, as the one on the very first slide, a small office building in Seattle. So this is a retrofit project. So this is it under construction, I think taken early last year. This will achieve net positive energy. It'll be 9-star performance, positive for water, positive for biodiversity, local jobs, local procurement, the wide range of things that something like Living Building Challenge looks at, but also sets a different tone for how we might assess what kind of performance and how we measure success in built environments and in a zero carbon future. That's what the project will look like at the end, and I think there is a commentary here about urban form. When we look at issues like population expansion in the Grampian region, where those people live and how low density we continue to promote our cities and extend our cities will have big impacts on every sector of our economy, because it impacts how far apart things are and also what the boundaries look like, particularly between buildings. So even the efficiency of townhouses is so much easier to get very high performance buildings when they're sharing walls with another conditioned space on the other side. But I think we can even look further than that, because we don't make buildings for the express purpose of heating and cooling people. We make schools for learning, we make hospitals for healing, we make businesses to do productive things in our economy. So this is the Ballarat Community Health Centre. Who's been there? Thank you. Okay, so I worked on this a few years ago when I was being an architect, and this building here gives us some examples of where, when you're aiming to achieve a low carbon building, you can do things that actually add so many other benefits. So here we're working from a biophilic design background, so we're looking to introduce daylight into spaces. I love when I get to present on this in a room with very little windows, because daylight is so fantastic for us. Daylight, exposure to daylight during the day triggers parts of our brains that help us focus. They help us get a sense of passing time that you don't get in a windowless room. They increase learning rates in schools. There is no better thing. And you know what else? When you've got daylight and windows, you don't turn the lights on. So it's an energy-saving thing as well. But if you set out to save energy, that's one thing. But if you set out to improve learning rates and productivity, you get elsewhere. The same goes for large, attractive stairs, for people who can use them, getting those short bursts of activity. Same kinds of benefits around focus, around your heart rate being more positive, and overall health and social benefits from using these public buildings that are made connected to nature and also lower energy. So can we scale up again? Stay with me. We'll scale up again and start to look at urban environments. So I'm working at BZE at the moment on one of the things, a zero carbon factory, which is fantastic because when I was working as an architect, I went and looked at facilities around the world that were aiming to be truly cradle to cradle. And I think if you're a circular economy enthusiast, you know what I'm talking about here, where we're trying to make every system feed into another. And I was surprised to hear that it was a soap factory just outside of Chicago that is doing some of the most ambitious stuff in the world. But what this does is it gives us a cue to how our built environments can help to be more productive just by how we arrange the types of activities that we're doing. This is primarily a soap box. It's called the Method Soap Box. It's a soap factory on the ground floor. On the top is Gotham Greens. That's the largest commercial greenhouse in the world. Ships greens all over the US and North America and Canada. So that is also at the back a bottle wash facility. Now this project here doesn't pursue a living building challenge rating. It's cradle to cradle rating is a different thing, but you're looking to the same benefits. So by co-locating these different facilities, they're all doing the operation. So the greenhouse uses tons of water. That wastewater comes down, can be purified and used in the bottle wash facility, and then again purified and help to go through the water that's required in the soaps. Then when it gets emitted, the foreground there was an environmental disaster that's now a rehabilitated wetland. This is in the Pullman district just south of Chicago, so used to make all of the trains for the US in this area. Highly polluted, now solved by industry. But look what you can do when you don't have to have massive gaps and keep all of your factories well away from the houses and well away from your schools because of their pollutions and because of their emissions and the local issues around their health. When they're made like this, there's a benefit. You can put things side by side and you can grow food literally on top of a factory, and that has huge implications for how we plan cities of the future that are zero carbon, because we're taking pollution out of the equation even for our most highly emitting areas. Go through this one here. I think it's a topic that might be closer to home. So this here is a hospital where they're growing food. Pretty basic, right? We know good food is good for health. That's great. So you grow food on site. That means patients get more nutrients on the table. The physiotherapists got interested in that, so they started running horticultural therapy with some of their patients. They started doing bedside horticultural therapy. People just doing flower arranging, or they're potting plants, they're relearning skills and engaging themselves in food production. So winning in lots of clinical measures of success. But also low carbon. because they're shipping much less food onto the site, they're taking much less waste away from site because they've got a garden to put it in, and they're making their energy bills lower because while they have to heat the greenhouse, that excess heat is going through a heat exchanger through the atriums in the shared spaces in the hospital. So you can get so many benefits from starting with the let's do a feel-good thing around food. I'm the only thing between you and lunch, I know. And getting to zero carbon. I think when we look at any of these sectors, food, buildings, waste, what we really need to consider is that we measure things we value, but then we value the things that we measure as well. So let's make sure that we're looking for the right indicators of success as we make this transition to zero carbon. Thank you.